Welcome back. Well, you will recognize our next guest as one of our beloved travel experts here on the social, but today she is here as a mom of a 16-year-old son who happens to join her today by the name of Cam. Cam is a youth activist who decided to use his voice after the murder of George Floyd.
Wearing a bandana or a hoodie doesn't mean I'm in a gang. Playing my music loud doesn't mean I'm up to no good. My Afro pick's only purpose is for combing my hair. It's no more a weapon than a comb or brush. It doesn't help that there are people in high positions across this country, this province, and this region who don't believe racism exists in Canada. People who are actively denying my very real fears and experiences.
Wow, we are thrilled to have you both here. Heather Greenwood-Davis and Cameron Davis, you're here to share your story with us and also to help us be and raise a good ally. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Good to be here.
We're really delighted to have you both here. And Cam, in that clip that we just heard, you mentioned people being in positions of power who believe that racism doesn't exist in Canada. And I understand that you had a particular experience with a teacher who was asserting just that. So please share that story with us.
Yeah, it was for my grade 10 culminating project. I did a topic on police brutality and carding, trying to decrease the amount of, racism in our community. But when I did that and presented it, I got a really low grade. I talked to my teacher about it, and they said that racism doesn't exist in Canada. And I was really shocked because, this teacher is supposed to be teaching me, educating me, and they couldn't even do that properly. So I got my parents involved, I got my principal involved, and she still hold that stance after all of that.
Wow, Heather, let's talk about that part of it because you did speak to the teacher. You also went to the principal with this as well. So what was the response that you received?
Yeah, the great thing is that the principal was as horrified as we were. I did go to the teacher first, and she, reiterated the statement, and I can't tell you how blown away and shocked I was by that. But at the same time, I don't think this is really about that one teacher. This is a systemic problem, right? She was working within the school system, and this was happening. So I don't know if she's teaching anymore. I know she's not at that school anymore.
I can only imagine how difficult this was for both of you. But Cam, you had the courage and to stand up to a figure like a teacher. It takes a lot of bravery to do something like that. And you were hurt, I'm sure, by this. And then you add on top of that what we said off the top, that something was awoken in you after the murder of George Floyd as well. And that is when you decided, with the culmination of these experiences, to use your voice. What pushed you to that point?
There was a Black Lives Matter protest going on in Markham, and a friend of mine asked me to speak. I was very nervous, but I took a step forward, I spoke, and people were really receptive to my voice. So after that, I got home, got questions, and got asked to post it on my YouTube channel, where I post travel and my experiences. So I thought I'd post it there and see what happened. It blew up.
It did blow up. So let's talk about that reaction that the video garnered. What was that experience like for you?
It was incredible. I would never have expected it to blow up as much as it did. I have some regret to that extent, but it did, and I'm really proud of it because it put me in situations where I could talk to ministers about how we can make positive change in the education system. It took me on segments like these, like others, where I got interviews about how to be an ally, how to be an anti-racist, and really areas where I could make positive change.
I'm curious about the regret piece.
What was the regret?
The living room. I would have combed my hair a bit more. I would have made sure that yeah.
So with his mother.
I wasn't expecting that.
Neither was I.
It haunts me. It haunts me.
Well, we think you look great. Heather, you as a mom have had frank conversations. We've talked about this before with Cam with both your sons, since they were very young, about how their race as young men could be perceived as possibly threatening, and the steps that they could take to combat that. So on that note, I want to first play another clip from your video.
And I agree when I enter the store to let you know I'm there, and I say goodbye when I leave the store because I want you to see my hands are empty. I leave my hood down on my hoodie, and I call my mother regularly when I'm out for a bike ride so that she knows I'm okay. And when I do all that, do you know what some kids say at school? Why are you acting so white? You're the whitest black guy I've ever met.
I mean, Cam, you can hear the emotion in your voice. It makes me emotional listening to it. But when you hear things like that from other kids, what do you take away from those words?
It's frustrating and it really aggravates me because they're basically telling me that I can't have that same amount of success as white people, or by making that statement like I'm white because I have these successes and these accomplishments and these accolades. It's basically saying that because I'm black, I shouldn't be able to do this, and it's really degrading and robbing me of the chance that I could be successful.
Heather, are there any trepidations or fears that you have that your son is using his voice and using it out in such a loud and proud way? Is there a cost at all or a fear for you?
Yeah, I mean, of course, there's an underlying fear, just as you fear for your kids' safety in almost anything they do. What's more important to me is that Cameron is using his voice because he feels it's important to use his voice, and he
Yeah.
feels that this is the topic he wants to use it on. He was not a kid who would have come to me before. You never spoke at anything else. For him to stand up at that rally was such a moment for him, and I saw what it did for his confidence and how, despite what that teacher had attempted to do in breaking him, that opportunity to speak really empowered him. And so I've made it really clear to him that, this is not his job. He doesn't have to go out there and speak on these things. I don't expect him to go out there and use his voice in this way. As long as he's comfortable doing it and wants to do it, we'll be behind him 100%. The moment he feels like it's too much, we stop.
Cam, there's going to be young people watching this, and people of all ages watching this and thinking, inspired by what you've done, by the way that you're using your voice. So, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who really wants to start getting involved in activism?
I remember when I was younger, I didn't really think that I'd ever be an activist. I thought that activism was based off of way more significant issues. But more recently, looking back, I realized that my experiences do have an impact, and I think youth today should also know that your voices do have an impact as well. Your voices do matter. So I guess what you could do is either any form of act is activism, right? If you're watching a movie or documentary about anti-racism, if you're reading books about representation, if you talk to your friends about it at school and educate them, that's a sense of activism, in my opinion.
I'm so warmed and heartened by hearing you say that, Cam. On the flip side, Heather, speaking to parents now, and we started this with saying, how do you raise a good ally, for example? And so, speaking to the parents, how do you encourage parents of all races to be speaking to
Yeah.
their kids about allyship or activism?
Yeah, well, first of all, you have to be speaking about it, right? If you're not talking about these things with them, then you're sort of sending the message that these aren't things that we talk about. And that's never a good thing. But for us, travel's been a huge part of that. You guys know we
Mhm.
travel all the time. And I think that has been huge for
Hmm.
them to be able to sort of find themselves as we're traveling around the world, reading.
Mhm.
That's also important. We always have a collection of books here for we're always encouraging reading over, say, video gaming. So those sorts of things. Those sorts of things are important. And I also think listening is super key. I'm big on eavesdropping. So I'm constantly offering to take the kids, especially when they were younger, to lots of places so that I could overhear what the kids were saying in the back seat and, how they talk to each other and that sort of thing.
I want to leave with your own words in this because in your speech, you said, quote, "Don't mistake my anger, sadness, and frustration for pessimism. I'm not discouraged." I love that optimism and that positivity, even through some very difficult things that you have faced and the world at large is facing right now. So I want to know, what is next? Since you went viral, I'm sure this has propelled you to think about a whole new set of goals for yourself, and we know you'll achieve them. So, what is next for you?
A few months ago, I started a co-founded organization called By Our Youth, which is giving youth the chance to share their voices, to talk about anti-racism or any of the injustices that they've seen or faced, so that we can have like a voice in our community. I've started a clothing brand that gives Black Lives Matter T-shirts to profits for charities, and I've started the YouTube channel for 3 years now. That's sharing my experiences with others and trying to get others to promote them to share their voices. I hope it will come in handy, or I hope we'll be able to use that voice and that, I guess, value and belief in the future if I run for prime minister, because that's a passion I have.
Yes.
Hey, you said it
Yes.
here
Coming for the
first.
job.
You said it
Watch
here
out,
on
Justin.
national TV. Wow.
Yes.
Heather, we would all be so lucky to have a son as phenomenal as yours. I know you are so, so proud. Heather and Cam, thank you so much for joining us today, especially in this capacity.
Thank you.
We'll be right back right after this.